Welcome to the first Zero is Hero video. My name is Chandler-Grevatt. I'm a teacher of teachers now. I was a teacher in a secondary school. For over 20 years I've been working in education and have learnt a lot about work-life balance, and this is what these videos are about. In these I'm going to share my own struggles, my reflections and practical tips for maintaining a good work-life balance. So what is a zero teacher all about? So I first read a chapter in a book by Chris Hadfield, who is a astronaut, and this book, An Astronaut's Guide to Life on Earth, has a chapter in it, chapter 9, on aim to be a zero. And in there Chris talks about how there are different types of people. There's the minus ones who are problematic because they cause more work for other people. They're a bit slacking. They don't contribute fully to the workforce. And then you've got these plus ones that actively add value, but over time, being a plus one is not sustainable. So in NASA and working in the environment where astronauts are working together, there's very clear roles, there's very clear systems in place, and everybody has their role in that place. And it made me think that there's a very similar thing in schools. Schools do have systems in place. Everybody has a role to play, and if we know what that role is, our own role, what we contribute to that, we can overall be a zero, because you're overall neutral. Everything you're putting in is balanced, and it means overall you become a zero. And I've produced just a very simple diagram. I'm a scientist by nature, and you may have seen these types of meters around, and this meter has a zero in the middle, and then as there's less whatever going through, probably current in this case, as there's less going in, it goes minus, and as there's more it goes plus. But overall we want to be a zero. Now life means that we are forever going backwards and forwards, but the idea is to check that and maintain that and overall become a zero. Now the trouble is, we all want to be a plus one. In the case of the astronauts, they were, you've got lots of egos, you've got lots of competitiveness, you've got lots of passion about becoming an astronaut, and it is highly competitive. Teaching is slightly different. I think we want to be plus ones because we want the best for our students. We really believe in what we do, we have a lot of passion, and we feel we have to do everything we can to help our students achieve their best. And so this desire to be a plus one is very, very strong, and it will dominate. So what we need to do is change our mind from being perfect to being good enough, and making decisions about what is a sensible amount of work to do, a sensible amount of work to put in, so that our students can flourish, but we can be sustainable and we can have a happy work-life balance. So what are the advantages of being a zero? I've thought about this as from being a teacher, and thought about what we can offer. So we're part of a system. We're usually part of a group of people who are working together with the same aim to develop students, to help them achieve their best. So we've all got an aim together, and we've all got different strengths and weaknesses, and within that team we have all got a role to play. Now if you're a new teacher, your role to play is much smaller. You only have to do a certain amount. You're teaching, marking, planning. You've got that as your role, and that's your job. But there's other people who are more experienced with more responsibilities, like making sure that there's long-term planning in place, making sure that everybody's okay. There's people to turn to, there's people to look for help. So what does a zero teacher do? Well, they do everything that's required of them without causing the problems. Okay, so that's the first thing they do. So if your job is to mark, plan and teach, then you do those three things. the idea is that we can thrive on positive stress. People do thrive on positive stress, and that's healthier in the long term. And we don't want to be overstressed. If we're getting overstressed, we need to check that. We need to take control of it. We need to balance it, and we'll look at techniques to do that later in later videos. Balancing your work life and home life overall makes you sustainable, makes you a zero teacher. So we do need to look at how do we maintain those things. Now, being a zero does not mean you don't move forward. It means that you plan how you're going to move forward and you're sustainable about that. So how is it that you're going to achieve your next step in your career? And it's not about racing through your career to get to whatever it is you want to do. Think about what's a reasonable amount of time to do that in, and how do I get there? And the great thing about, if all these previous things are in place, is that everyone benefits. Your students, the other teachers, the school overall, but importantly yourself and your family and your friends will all benefit from you overall being a zero. And you'll find that over time, a zero teacher becomes an extraordinary teacher. And extraordinary teachers are the ones that can stay in and live their life and enjoy their work and be good in their work. So what can we do then? What are the practical ways of becoming a zero teacher? Now, I've already talked about it's a resistance against perfectionism. It's a resistance against being the best in every single instance and every single area. It's about a sustainable approach to teaching. So I'm going to just give you some ideas about the types of things that can make you sustainable and the things for you to think about. You may be able to reflect on these and see whether they affect you. And in future videos, I will be looking at some of these things in detail. So the first thing to think about is when you arrive at school and when you leave school. You are either an early bird or a night owl. You're not both. Okay, and we can't be both. It's not sustainable to be both. So make a decision about what you are, you probably know, and stick to that. So if it means you can go into work early and get work done, you need to leave at a reasonable time. You leave a bit earlier. If you're a night owl, you can get in a bit later in the morning and leave a bit later in the evening. But try and maintain it. If you're the first to leave and the first to arrive and the last to leave, there is a problem. Okay, you need to think about that. So what are you doing to be sustainable in that case? Plan to teach your lessons and meet deadlines is the minimum you're expected to do for most teachers. So think about what those things are that you must do. What are your commitments? What are the expectations of your job? And work out how to do those as efficiently as possible. Every day you should be taking breaks. You should be having a lunch break. You must be sitting down and eating, preferably with colleagues, not just shut away somewhere else, so that you are maintaining your bodily health. You must eat, you must go to toilet, you must do all the things that your body needs every day. You can't just try and squeeze those things out. It's important to take that space each day. And that leads on to your rest and play time. When do you do that? You need to plan that in. And it's not just in holidays. Don't save it all up for the holidays, because that's causing disaster. You deserve a bit of time for rest and play every day and every week. So think about when you're going to do those and how you're going to maintain those. If you are doing all these things, you can reflect on how they're going, because sometimes unexpected things from work or life crop up and there'll be problems. You'll not be achieving those things. But if you reflect regularly, you can make adjustments and make things better, and overall be that zero again. Once you're in that space, you should be able to support others if you need to, but also seek support from others if you need it. So we are part of a system, so we can draw on other people if you're having trouble, and equally you can give some time to somebody else if they're having trouble. The pacing of your professional development is really important. I see teachers go straight into heads of department role or more senior roles before they've even spent time in their early years just developing their skills as a teacher. I think it's really important that if you can, try and build things slowly. You'll end up reflecting later on and maybe regretting not having time to establish the basis of your career. So take those steps as slowly as you can. And the other thing I recommend to particularly NQTs, that's new teachers, is that you don't have to be shining all the time. You can choose to do something throughout the year, just one thing. Maybe it's running a science club, maybe it's doing an activity week of some kind, or organising something high profile within the school. You'll get some recognition for that, but it's only in a short burst of time. It's got good outcomes for the students, but only you need to do that once, okay? Overall, you'll be zero. And if you think, if every teacher just did one high profile thing, whether it's running a club or an after school activity or anything along those lines, anything slightly extracurricular, if every teacher did that, then there'd be a full program throughout the year without anybody having to do too much extra. So do have a think about those things. So those are the things about becoming a zero teacher. You move towards those things, and all these things I will look at in a bit more detail. So hopefully you'll see that this is a sort of mindset. It's a fight against perfectionism. It's trying to resist comparing ourselves to others, having clear direction ourselves, and challenging our own self-doubts as and when they arise. Aiming to be a zero is not a one-off thing. It's a constant reflection, making adjustments, and checking that you are overall maintaining this zero. In these videos, I'm aiming over the next academic year, to try and do one of these regularly to help teachers reflect and plan on their own work-life balance. And I'm going to be going through these processes with you. Personally, I've just changed jobs. I have more than one job as well, so I have to juggle all these things, and I am learning all the time how to become a better person at managing my work-life balance and maintaining that zero idea. If you like these ideas and you want to learn more, please subscribe to this channel. The more people I know are listening, the more impetus I'll have to continue to produce these. I've also got a Twitter account and Instagram. If you'd like to follow me on there, I'll be able to update you when the next video is coming out, and all the details are in the description below. Thank you for listening. I hope you are inspired to think about this and take it forward. And I wish you the best in starting the new term with aiming to become a zero.